In the current cultural and political climate, there exists a striking divide between those who represent the everyday concerns of working Americans and those who dwell in the rarefied air of celebrity circles. This division becomes most apparent when individuals who have spent the majority of their lives in the spotlight attempt to critique or mock the deeply personal aspects of leaders whose lives and policies are subject to public scrutiny on an entirely different level. When remarks are made from a pedestal of fame, especially concerning matters as personal as marriage, it reveals a disconnect that is not only tone-deaf, but also dismissive of the values and experiences that resonate with the average citizen. Those who have dedicated their lives to public service understand that the role comes with immense sacrifice. Relationships are tested, families are scrutinized, and every decision, personal or political, is dissected under the magnifying glass of public opinion. Yet, there remains a dignity in enduring that pressure with grace and strength. To reduce that experience to the butt of a joke or to use it as a platform for performative commentary not only disrespects the individuals involved, but also the institution they represent and the people they serve. In a society that claims to value empathy and understanding, it's ironic how quickly some are to abandon those principles when it suits a narrative or provides a moment of applause. Mocking someone's relationship, especially when it's done from a stage lit by the flashbulbs of privilege, doesn't showcase insight or courage. Instead, it highlights a kind of self-indulgent detachment that forgets, or perhaps never knew, what it means to connect with people who live outside the echo chambers of applause and affirmation. What's missing in these types of critiques is a sense of humility. It's easy to look down from a mountain built on adoration and judge the battles others are fighting, but that mountain doesn't give anyone a clearer view of truth. If anything, it distorts perspective. Those who walk among the people, who listen to their frustrations, celebrate their victories, and share in their disappointments, understand that relationships, like leadership, require resilience. They are not perfect, nor do they pretend to be. They reflect the grit and imperfection of real life, and there is honor in that authenticity. Furthermore, there is something to be said about loyalty. Loyalty to one's values, to one's family, and to the role one holds. To remain committed to a partner, to withstand the storms of fame, pressure, and judgment without faltering, speaks to a deeper character than any glib soundbite from an awards podium ever could. Those who choose to stand by their loved ones, through thick and thin, embody the strength that so many Americans admire, not because it is easy, but because it is right. The truth is, marriage, like leadership, isn't always about optics. It's about enduring. It's about showing up when it's hard, being steady when the world demands perfection, and refusing to walk away when things get messy. These are not qualities that belong to the rich or famous. They're values that define everyday heroes. The parents, the workers, the small business owners, the veterans. The people who fix what's broken instead of mocking what they don't understand. By attempting to undermine the character of those in public service with casual jokes or dismissive comments, there's an implicit message being sent that those who lead must also be perfect, flawless, and free of the complications of real life. That's not only unrealistic, it's fundamentally unfair. The measure of a person is not in whether they've lived a life untouched by scandal or struggle, but in how they carry themselves through it. That's the example that should be uplifted. There's a reason so many Americans resonate with those who show vulnerability, perseverance, and loyalty. It's not because they expect their leaders to be saints, it's because they want them to be human. They want them to understand the struggle, the pain, the sacrifice. And when those in the public eye trivialize that experience, it doesn't bring people together. It drives a wedge between those who perform for applause and those who serve out of duty. Mockery may get headlines, but it doesn't build trust. It doesn't forge connection. And it certainly doesn't reflect the values that keep this country moving forward. In the midst of media noise and relentless criticism, there is a simple truth that often gets drowned out. Results speak louder than rhetoric. When evaluating the effectiveness of leadership, the most important question is not how someone is perceived by the elite or how they're portrayed in headlines. It's what has been tangibly delivered to the people who rely on that leadership every single day. When you look past the distractions and personal attacks, a track record of policy achievements emerges, one that has directly improved the lives of countless Americans. Economic growth isn't just a number on a spreadsheet, it's the mother, who finally feels relief because her paycheck stretches a little farther. It's the small business owner who can hire one more employee or upgrade equipment. It's the recent graduate who lands their first job in a strong labor market. These aren't abstractions. They are the real, lived experiences of citizens who felt the positive effects of pro-growth policies. Lower taxes and reduced regulations gave breathing room to families and businesses alike, creating an environment where opportunity was not just a slogan, but a reality. Job creation, especially in sectors that had long been neglected, reignited hope in communities that had previously been written off. Manufacturing jobs, energy jobs, and other blue-collar professions were no longer dismissed as relics of the past, but celebrated as vital components of a thriving economy. These weren't just policies made for headlines. They were crafted to honor the dignity of work and to rebuild the backbone of the nation. And while critics were busy making noise, substantial progress was being made in areas that affect every American household. Trade agreements were renegotiated to benefit domestic workers, putting the country's interests first in a global market that had too often left American labor behind. Energy independence was pursued with urgency, not just to create jobs, but to strengthen national security and reduce reliance on volatile foreign markets. There was also a notable shift in how government served its people. Bureaucratic red tape was slashed, making it easier for veterans to access healthcare, for small businesses to navigate regulations, and for everyday citizens to interact with government without frustration or delay. This wasn't about dismantling government. It was about making it work better, faster, and more fairly for the people it's meant to serve. Criminal justice reform, a long overdue effort, saw real movement. The legislation aimed at giving nonviolent offenders a second chance was crafted with bipartisan support, highlighting what could be achieved when politics took a backseat to people. Families were reunited, and individuals were given a chance to contribute meaningfully to society rather than being trapped in a cycle of incarceration. In education, the emphasis on school choice empowered parents to make decisions based on their child's needs rather than being trapped by geography or income level. It was a shift toward accountability and opportunity, rooted in the belief that every child deserves access to quality education, no matter their background or zip code. Meanwhile, healthcare policy focused on expanding options and lowering costs rather than funneling people into rigid systems that didn't account for individual needs. Prescription drug prices, which had skyrocketed for years, finally began to drop due to aggressive negotiations and regulatory changes that prioritized the patient over pharmaceutical profits. Yet, despite these clear wins for everyday Americans, much of the public discourse has been hijacked by distractions. Personal lives, style choices, and tweets have often taken center stage over job reports, GDP growth, and policy innovation. But the facts remain. In times of crisis and calm alike, strong decisions were made that benefited real people, working, families, underserved communities, and overlooked industries. When leadership prioritizes the nation's needs over approval from the cultural elite, the results speak for themselves. And while critics may mock, distort, or downplay these achievements, those who felt the impact firsthand understand their value. They don't need headlines to tell them what worked. They lived it. They saw more money in their wallets, more opportunities in their neighborhoods, and a government that for once seemed to remember who it was supposed to serve. That's the heart of this conversation. Leadership is not a performance, it's a responsibility. And when that responsibility is taken seriously, the proof is found not in applause or awards, but in the lives improved, the futures secured, and the dignity restored to communities that had. There is a growing tendency among public figures in the entertainment industry to use their platforms for political commentary, often with a tone of condescension toward the very people and institutions they claim to care about. While everyone has the right to express their opinion, the credibility of those opinions should be weighed by how connected they are to the everyday realities of the people they claim to represent. When individuals who live lives of immense privilege and insulation from the consequences of policy speak as if they fully understand the struggles of working Americans, the result is often not enlightenment, but alienation. Many of these voices are projected from behind velvet ropes and multi-million-dollar homes, far removed from the grocery store aisles where families calculate their spending to the dollar, or the job sites where blue-collar workers labor under real stress to provide for their families. To dismiss or ridicule political figures who are working to address the very issues affecting those families doesn't come across as brave or insightful. It comes across as detached and, at times, disrespectful. There's a stark difference between advocating for causes and belittling the people involved in public service. Advocacy can bring awareness to important issues, but when the message is delivered with a sneer or packaged as a punchline, it turns from awareness into arrogance. It signals that the goal isn't to elevate a conversation, but to elevate oneself above those with different experiences or beliefs. This isn't a matter of silencing voices. It's about recognizing the source of those voices and questioning whether they truly grasp the complexities they claim to condemn. Living behind gates, flying private, and having entire teams dedicated to public image and reputation management makes it much easier to criticize those who must make hard decisions in real time with real consequences under relentless public scrutiny. When actors, musicians, or influencers lecture the country on politics from a position entirely protected from the fallout of failed policies, the disconnect becomes painfully obvious. The average American doesn't have the luxury of being wrong without consequences. They can't afford to promote a narrative for claps and clicks. They have to live with the effects of economic shifts, social unrest, and cultural division. The opinions of those unaffected by such things should be taken with caution, especially when presented as moral imperatives. The more these elite voices step into the political arena with snide remarks or oversimplified views, the more they risk widening the gap between themselves and the rest of the country. Their commentary often lacks the nuance of lived experience and instead reflects an ideology nurtured within circles that reward uniformity of thought. When public figures mock, exaggerate, or distort realities to make political points, they're not holding power accountable. They're feeding a cycle of division that ultimately weakens the trust between leaders and the people. One of the more troubling aspects of this dynamic is that it shifts the focus away from meaningful debate. When personal attacks, insults, or mocking language become the center of attention, they distract from the real issues: jobs, education, public safety, infrastructure, and national security. They replace dialogue with theater, and in doing so, they turn politics into a stage play rather than the serious business of governance. People deserve better. They deserve honesty over spectacle, solutions over sound bites, and they certainly deserve to be represented by individuals who understand their realities, not spoken down to by those who only visit them in speeches and interviews. The irony is that those who claim to speak truth to power often end up speaking from a place of more power than they realize. Their words carry weight, not because of substance, but because of status. This is why it matters who is doing the talking and from where they're talking. A person who has spent decades working with communities, grappling with the effects of policy decisions, and fighting for tangible outcomes has earned the right to speak with authority. Someone whose experience is rooted in scripts and stages may have passion, but passion alone does not substitute for understanding. So when a celebrity makes a political jab from the comfort of an award show podium, it's not a profound act of bravery. It's the easiest place in the world to speak without consequence. But outside of that room, in cities and towns across the country, people are looking for voices that resonate with reality, not ones that echo within an elite bubble. Amid the noise of political commentary and personal criticism, one principle remains at the core of effective leadership: an unshakable commitment to democratic values and to serving the people, regardless of opposition or misrepresentation. In times of growing division and increasing cynicism, this steadfast devotion to the foundational ideals of the nation is more vital than ever. It is not enough to simply hold office or gain power. What matters is how that power is wielded, who it benefits, and whether it honors the voices of those who entrusted it. True democratic leadership does not cater to the elite, nor does it bow to the approval of the media or the entertainment class. It listens to the people, the workers, the veterans, the farmers, the parents struggling to pay for groceries or college. It means being attuned to the pulse of the nation, not the applause of distant influencers. And when that leadership is attacked or mocked by those who do not bear the weight of public responsibility, the response is not to retreat, but to stand taller, more rooted in the service of the people who matter most. There is a type of courage that is often overlooked. It is not the kind shouted from stages or dramatized for effect. It is quiet, steady, and deeply loyal to the promise of a republic that functions not by decree, but by consent. That courage is found in those who continue, working through hostility, who face daily media distortions yet remain focused on policies that improve lives. It's in those who keep faith with the Constitution even when it's politically inconvenient, who understand that serving in public office is not a personal privilege, but a duty to the governed. The strength of a democracy is measured not by how loudly critics shout, but by how firmly leaders stay rooted in principle despite those shouts. When performers or public figures reduce national service to entertainment, they weaken the public discourse. But those who stay grounded in democratic accountability and constitutional respect show what it means to lead with integrity. They don't respond with rage or retaliation, but with clarity, commitment, and an unwavering focus on the job at hand. Serving a democracy also requires a thick skin, especially when the spotlight is harsh and unforgiving. It demands a willingness to face unfair treatment, biased narratives, and deeply personal attacks without losing sight of the broader mission. Those who stay the course amid these challenges exhibit a rare form of resilience, one that reflects not only inner strength but deep respect for the process itself. They understand that democracy isn't always easy or pretty, but it is worth defending, especially when others attempt to degrade or belittle it for their own gain. It's easy to mock. It's easy to tear down. What's hard is building. What's hard is listening to criticism, even when it's unjust, and responding with more dedication, not less. Real public servants rise above the noise. They do the work, meet the people, and make decisions based on what's best for the country, not what earns them praise from celebrities or media personalities. Their focus is on results, not recognition. This kind of leadership can feel old-fashioned, in a culture obsessed with headlines and sound bites, but it is exactly what holds a democracy together. A leader who respects the will of the voters, who works tirelessly on their behalf even when it's unpopular with the cultural gatekeepers, demonstrates the true essence of democratic service. That service doesn't rely on charisma or approval, ratings. It depends on fidelity, to the law, to the people, and to the enduring belief that a government of the people must always act for the people. And when such leadership is mocked by those who live outside its responsibility, the contrast becomes clear. One stands for principles, the other performs for attention. One gets their hands dirty in the details of policy and public welfare. The other watches from afar, offering critiques without consequence. But only one is accountable. Only one answers to voters. Only one carries the weight of every decision made, not for the benefit of a personal brand, but for the benefit of an entire nation. Remaining dedicated to democratic ideals under constant fire is not weakness, it is strength. It's the kind of strength that doesn't make headlines but shapes history. And those who live by that strength remind the nation of what real public service looks like: selfless, unyielding, and rooted in the belief that the people, not the powerful, deserve to be heard and respected. In the end, the measure of leadership is not found in glitz or glamour, nor in the approval of those who reside comfortably in the world of make-believe. It is found in the daily grind of governing, in the tough calls that affect real people, and in the relentless pursuit of a better future for all Americans. Those who serve in public office, especially those who do so with conviction, grit, and a refusal to bow to elite opinion, carry with them a responsibility that extends far beyond party lines or media narratives. Their success is not judged by sound bites or social media applause, but by the substance of their actions and the lives they impact. There will always be critics. Some will come from within the system, others from stages and screens. But criticism is not the enemy of democracy, so long as it is rooted in truth, respect, and a genuine desire to improve the system. When it instead becomes mockery, laced with arrogance and detached from the experiences of ordinary people, it loses its value and reveals more about the critic than the target. A democracy built on freedom of speech must also be built on responsibility. Responsibility in how that speech is used, and an awareness of its reach and consequence. The people of this country are not fooled by theatrics. They may watch the award shows, scroll past the headlines, and even chuckle at the occasional jab. But when it comes time to vote, they remember what really matters. They remember who was there when jobs were on the line, when safety was at stake, and when their voices were ignored by those in power. They remember who stood up, not for praise, but for principle. Leaders who remain committed to the ideals of democracy, who ignore the distractions and focus on delivering results, are the ones who earn lasting respect. They don't chase approval, they earn trust. And trust, once earned through action and consistency, is more powerful than any fleeting moment of viral fame. That trust is what binds a leader to their people. It's what turns criticism into fuel and adversity into motivation. So let the celebrities speak. Let the critics laugh. Real leadership isn't shaken by spectacle. It endures, it delivers, and, most importantly, it listens, not to applause, but to the people. Because in a nation as diverse, resilient, and determined as this one, it is the people who have always had the final say. And those who remember that will continue to rise, no matter how loud